Michael Chandler, as we know his history, excellent athlete, heavy hands, good low kicks, and an amazing wrestler. And he's an absolute maniac, and I mean that as a compliment. He's a savage inside the octagon.
I fight composed and confident. I fight smart, and I fight sharp.
You're not in jeopardy of not being a fun fighter to watch. Of all the things Michael Chandler's ever been accused of, that's not on the list.
The most entertaining lightweight on the planet.
The thing about Chandler is, like, you got to take him out. His style, his also got that killer be killed style, he puts himself in danger too, and he loses sometimes. He came that close to being the champion of the world, that close.
Michael Chandler needs to decide, does he want to be wildly entertaining, or does he want to be UFC champion?
We'll all suffer setbacks. We will all suffer losses. We will all get black eyes and bruises and pain, and how you deal with those things, that's where the true character is really revealed.
You said this close to a world championship. How devastating would that be? And his attitude is like, back to work, see you at the top.
I got into this sport to become the champion. I got into the sport to wear 12 pounds of leather and gold around my waist, and I would love for it to say the UFC on it. I want to win that title.
I tell y'all this, there's a new king in the lightweight division. Dustin Poirier, your time is coming, and Khabib. In your quest for 30, you know you gotta beat somebody. So beat me, if you can. God bless, see you at the top.
I'm just a normal guy from a normal little town, but if you set your mind to something, you can accomplish great things.
On UFC 254, Khabib Nurmagomedov was about to face Justin Gaethje in their now famous lightweight championship fight. Leading up to the fight, the spotlight was often shined on one fighter who was a replacement in case one of the fighters would be forced to withdraw. He was itching to get inside the octagon and show the world what he can do. That fight would end up being the final farewell for Khabib, who announced his retirement after submitting Gaethje in a ruthless triangle choke.
When UFC called me about Justin, I talked with my mother 3 days. Today is my last fight here in UFC.
Wow. No one would blame you if you don't recognize that face from seeing it in the UFC Octagon. His name is Michael Chandler, and he was there to see if his debut in the coveted UFC roster would be in a championship fight against one of the legends of the promotion.
I told Dana, I told these guys as soon as I wanted to come in, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time, so I want to be thrown into the mix right away. What better way to introduce the UFC fans to who Michael Chandler is?
He wouldn't get the chance to fight that night. However, we could witness his intensity, his desire to fight, and one could sense that he was destined for greater things down the road. Michael grew up in High Ridge, Missouri, in a blue-collar, hard-working American household. High Ridge had a population of 4,305 per the 2010 census, so it was a tight-knit community where most knew each other. From early on, Michael learned the importance of hard work, instilled early by his parents.
You know, life is crazy when you're working 2 jobs and your husband's working 2 jobs and you have 3 kids and you're trying to provide for them. So life is crazy, but they never complained. They never felt sorry for themselves. My dad was the hardest working man I know. The home that I grew up in High Ridge, Missouri, my dad built it with his bare hands. My mom was really kind of the glue that held us all together.
He owes a lot of his success to that same work ethic that he demonstrates to this day. A relentlessness that helped him bounce back from many setbacks.
If I didn't wake up every single morning knowing that my mom and dad outwork me every single day, then I wouldn't be where I am today.
Michael is one of 3 brothers in the family, And even though such family dynamics can be difficult for the youngest siblings, Michael had and still has an amazing relationship with his brothers. The Chandler brothers spent a lot of time together, along with their dad. Recalling his childhood days, Michael said that oftentimes he and his brothers went boat bass fishing or were camping in the woods with their pops.
That was the main bonding that me and my two brothers did with my dad. We literally have been in the woods since we were in diapers.
Michael was introduced to wrestling early in life and started to wrestle when he was only 5 years old. While it might have been hard for a 5-year-old kid, wrestling eventually brought out the best in Chandler. It unveiled his character of endurance, discipline, and stellar focus. He found his calling. After several years of success on the mats, Chandler decided, with support from his father, to take a break from wrestling at age 12. Even then, Michael threw himself at everything he did. Wrestling was his passion, so he spent every minute of every day thinking about the sport, training, and competing. And he was damn good at it. But doing such intense work at such a young age takes its toll. Chandler was speeding through his childhood days, formative for any young man. He felt he needed a break, and he was mature enough and brave enough to allow himself to take that break. He spent the next 2 years doing everything but wrestling. He spent more time with his dad and his brothers. He went hunting and fishing, and he let his mind soak up the trials and tribulations of being a teenager. One day, however, the voice came back. It never disappeared, really. It sat there, waiting for its moment. Michael needed to return to his calling. He came to his parents and, with a newly found confidence, announced that he was ready to return.
As soon as he got back to high school, they sent around a paper for wrestling. And he came home and said,
"I'm ready." And I knew then he meant it. He was ready.
In high school, Chandler was on the competing roster each term, racking wins left and right. It was only the Missouri State Championship that eluded him. In his senior year, he was determined to finally win it all, after falling short the previous 3 years. However, in a close fight, he finished second. On the road back home after the championship match, Michael was in the backseat with his father driving. They didn't say a word the entire trip. Only the quiet sobs coming from Michael could be heard in the car. Still, he was voted the most valuable wrestler during his senior season and was selected to the All-St. Louis team. Even though he lost in the championships, Michael was recognized as a generational wrestling talent across the country. Passing on scholarship offers to smaller schools, Michael took a leap of faith and enrolled in the University of Missouri wrestling team in 2004.
Walking on to the University of Missouri was the single best decision that I made in my entire athletic life, but it also spilled into every single other aspect of my life. I wanted to prove to myself, I wanted to prove to all my friends in High Ridge, Missouri, Jefferson County, Missouri, that said, hey, why don't you go take this Division III scholarship? Why don't you go take that NAIA scholarship? If something in me, thank God, it went against the grain of what everybody thought I was capable of. I made that decision to walk on and know where I started.
While at Missouri, Chandler was a 4-time NCAA qualifier and earned 5th place, earning Division I NCAA All-American honors. He bet on himself his whole life, and it paid dividends.
I missed out on a lot of what most would call the college experience because I just embedded myself in the wrestling room, in the weight room.
There were days I had to throw him out of the practice room and say, you cannot work out. Do not find another wrestling room. You cannot work out anymore.
Coach Brian Smith's Mizzou Tigers. The reason he's the greatest coach in the world is because when you come in as a recruit or you come in as a freshman, his main goal is to make you a high-functioning member of society. I have no doubt that I am the man that I am because of my 5 years that I spent there under him, watching how he conducted his life.
Through sheer determination and putting in more work than was expected of him, Chandler was a runner-up in the 2008 and 2009 Big 12 championships. He had a 31-15 record against Big 12 opponents, and a fantastic 140 overall record in his 4 years as a starter. Just take a look at his accomplishments at the University of Missouri. 4-time NCAA qualifier, Division I All-American, 2-time runner-up at Big 12 championships, 4-year starter, 100 career wins, and 2-year team captain. To top that off, he managed a major in personal finance management. It was something that his coach at Mizzou promised Michael's parents when he enrolled. He would get his degree no matter what. That doesn't even scratch the surface when it comes to the man he would become.
His leadership was not only what he would say, but what he brought to the room and the way he lived his life.
There's no ego in Michael Chandler, only the desire for excellence and willingness to suffer for the greater good. After an illustrious wrestling career, Chandler set his sights on MMA, following in the footsteps of his mentors Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley.
Luckily for me, I had 2 guys that I wrestled with, Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley, both come out ahead of me, wrestled at Mizzou, graduated, and then started fighting. Those 2 guys were like my big brothers, so I figured I'd give it a try and have not looked back since.
He started his professional MMA career in the First Blood promotion. He made his professional debut against Kyle Swadley on August 8, 2009. Kyle Swadley already had 6 fights behind him before facing Chandler. Nevertheless, Chandler beat Kyle Swadley by KO/TKO at 3 minutes 30 seconds of round 1. After his debut, Chandler had 2 fights in an MMA promotion, Strikeforce. He won both of them via finishes, one via TKO against Richard Bupanavong, the second in just 59 seconds via submission, rear naked choke, against Sal Woods. Following his 3 wins to kick off his MMA career, Chandler signed up with Bellator.
So why go to Bellator, not UFC?
Years ago, I saw a better path when I was younger and wanted to get my career started. I thought Bellator was a great opportunity. Back then they used to do tournaments where we would fight an 8-man tournament, 3 fights in 3 months.
Like Bloodsport?
Yeah, 3 fights in 3 months. If you did that, you won $100,000 and you got an opportunity to fight for the world title. So I saw that path and I said, that's an easier path or a better path to get great exposure and fight a really top-ranked guy.
It was time to enter the big leagues. It was at Bellator that he would earn recognition and the reputation for being one of the toughest fighters on the planet. He won 18 of his fights in Bellator and lost 5. 7 TKO victories and 6 submissions among them, along with 10 finishes in the first round. Those achievements made SportingNews.com rate him as the #1 greatest fighter in Bellator history in 2018. Chandler made his Bellator debut on September 30th, 2010, where he defeated Scott Stapp via TKO in the first round. In his second Bellator fight, Chandler fought against Chris Page in a welterweight contest, which he won in the first minute of the first round via guillotine choke submission.
No trip and fall, but a guillotine victory for Michael Chandler just like that. He's fallen now in the middle of the cage. Held on a little too long with that guillotine.
In February 2011, Bellator announced that Chandler would be a part of the Bellator Season 4 lightweight tournament. In the opening round of the tournament, Chandler fought Marcin Held and won via technical submission after choking Held unconscious with an arm triangle choke.
Now he's done. the stoppage and the win for Michael Chandler. I didn't see a tap and maybe a technical submission.
In the semifinals, Chandler fought Lloyd Woodard and won via unanimous decision, advancing to the tournament finals.
See Woodard's head flat against the mat. Chandler still pouring it on.
The bell, the end of the fight.
Lloyd's the man. Hats off to him. Toughest dude I've ever fought. Speaking of tough guys you need to fight, now you're in the final. Patricky Pitbull, what? Give me him. Let's go.
The tournament final would see Chandler face Patricky Freire. Chandler repeatedly took down Freire and controlled the fight, earning him a unanimous decision and a chance to win $100,000 at the Bellator Lightweight World Championship against future UFC phenom Eddie Alvarez. The fight between Chandler and Alvarez would go down as one of the most beloved fights in Bellator history. Some would even say in MMA history. Chandler started off strong and landed 2 big rights with which he dropped Alvarez. Alvarez fought back and mauled Chandler with a barrage of punches. Chandler then managed to take down Alvarez, controlling him on the ground and kneeing his body.
Seconds of round number 1. An amazing round number 1. Dropped him again. Right hand by Chandler. Looking to finish.
In the 4th round, both fighters looked fresh, but Alvarez seemed much livelier, popping in and out with shots to the body and head. Chandler popped Alvarez with a left jab, and Alvarez ate much punishment from Chandler as he got the side control and soon had mount. Alvarez quickly gave his back, and Chandler immediately grabbed the rear naked choke, leaving Alvarez with nothing much to do except tap out.
That's it! The choke. There's the tap, and we have a new champion. Michael Chandler is Bellator's new lightweight world champion.
Thus, Chandler was crowned the new Bellator lightweight champ. Chandler defended his title against former Olympic judoka Rick Hahn at Bellator 85 on January 17, 2013.
Take that, Chandler.
That was a lot easier than I expected.
He won the fight via submission in the 2nd round.
Outstanding performance by Michael Chandler. Man, we felt that over here in the commentary.
Chandler was set to make the 2nd defense of his title against Bellator Season 7 lightweight tournament winner Dave Jansen. However, on June 2nd, it was announced that Jansen had to pull out of the bout due to an injury. Chandler faced David Rickles at Bellator 97 instead, a fight which he won via KO 44 seconds into the 1st round. It was a violent and spectacular knockout.
Title defense for Michael Chandler.
Now, it's around this time that Michael Chandler's story would take a surprising turn.
So basically, in a roundabout way, it all goes back to Mizzou wrestling. You know, got my tooth knocked out by Mizzou wrestling. The university set up the appointment. Well, I was waiting out in the waiting room, just like, I'm like, who's this cute girl in all these pictures? This might be his daughter. This might be his daughter. It's gotta be his daughter.
The woman he'd been emailing back and forth with for 2 years would soon come into his life, and their relationship would quickly blossom. Bree Willett and Michael Chandler scream power couple. The two are very fit, successful in their own right, and live lives pursuing nothing but their dreams. With Michael, his achievements are clear to the world, but Bree also had her own life before having met Chandler. As a young woman, she completed her medical science degree and worked as a counselor. Bree is now a doctor in Nashville specializing in aesthetic medicine. It's clear having a like-minded, independent, career-driven woman by his side definitely helped Chandler kick his future goals. Michael popped the question to Bree in 2014, and the two held their marriage ceremony in September that same year.
And the man that you see in the cage after a fight talking and the man giving an interview, like, that is him.
It's an amazing thing to have an amazing woman. We mesh well. It works so well for us.
There's nobody else like him.
Back to Bellator. After Chandler's stunning knockout win over David Rickles at Bellator 97, the stage was set for a rematch against Alvarez. The event took place on November 2nd, 2013. and started out as strong as the first one.
Bellator's lightweight world title, round number 1.
Chandler was coming forward, and even though he managed to land a big jab, he was taking a lot of damage himself. Like in their first meeting, Chandler was not intimidated by the more experienced Alvarez and played his game. Chandler was content to walk into Alvarez's punches to find an opening for himself. The strategy paid off when Chandler landed a right hand on the face of Alvarez midway through round 1, forcing Alvarez to defend.
Kick caught, Chandler pounces. To get one hook in, big takedown.
Alvarez became more aggressive in round 2 and also was better in his counter game, clipping Chandler a couple of times early. However, Chandler stayed in Alvarez's face even as he continued to absorb punches. Chandler's wrestling allowed him to escape some difficult situations, but Alvarez stung him with a combo in round 2.
Oh, nice combination.
Round 3 was a back and forth affair, with Alvarez winning an early exchange and then stuffing a Chandler takedown. He also found a rhythm with his jab. In the championship rounds, both fighters tried to assert themselves. Chandler hit Alvarez with a huge knee after Alvarez had him backed up against the fence. Then he tagged Alvarez a few more times before blocking a takedown. He even bloodied Alvarez and seemingly led the scorecards.
Almost from this top position.
Alvarez responded strongly in the final round. He kept coming forward and did some ground and pound of his own.
Chandler able to roll out, but still full mount. He's in big trouble still.
In the wild last minutes of the fight, Alvarez mauled Chandler's face. But Chandler never stopped fighting.
But he is still fighting and ends up on top.
They ended the bout tangled up on the ground, covered in each other's blood.
A phenomenal 25 minutes in the Bellator cage. And look at the show of respect from these two phenomenal fighters.
Alvarez won via split decision in a fight that many thought Chandler had won. A great fight for both. A third fight was set up for the main event of Bellator 120 on May 17, 2014. But a week before the fight, it was announced that Alvarez was forced to pull out of the fight due to a concussion. Chandler faced Will Brooks for the interim lightweight title instead and lost the fight via split decision.
His confidence growing, the left side of Chandler's face swelling up.
Bellator lightweight world champion, Will Brooks.
Congratulations, Will. I'll be back stronger.
Eddie Alvarez would soon leave the promotion and make a name for himself in the UFC. So, Chandler faced Will Brooks in a rematch on November 15, 2014 at Bellator 131 for the vacant lightweight title.
Remember all that head movement we saw in the first round? We're not seeing any now from Chandler. I think that shot. Yeah, that's a good one.
He lost the fight via TKO in the 4th round. A disheartening loss that made Chandler question himself. He was to return to his winning ways against Derek Campos at Bellator 138 on June 19, 2015.
Left hand by Chandler, that was quick. Campos firing back to the right. Oh, big right hand by Chandler.
He won that fight via submission in the first round.
And there's the tap.
In his following bout, he won the rematch against Dave Rickles on November 6, 2015 at Bellator 145 via TKO in the 2nd round. Chandler would have a rematch against Patricky Freire at Bellator 157 on June 17, 2016. The bout was for the vacant Bellator Lightweight Championship, due to then-champion Will Brooks being released from the promotion. Chandler regained the title after winning via a spectacular knockout in the first round, one of his many highlight reels.
What does it mean to finally get that belt and make it all worth it?
I'm just getting better. I'm getting better every single day. I want to be the best in the world.
In his first title defense, Chandler faced former World Extreme Cage Fighting and UFC champion Benson Henderson in the main event at Bellator 165 on November 19, 2016.
That fight was insane. He took a lot of hits in that whole fight. I mean, that thing was crazy.
Yeah. I fought so hard the first 4 rounds that I didn't have anything left in the tank.
For the world champion.
Bell rang, and I'm just sitting there on my knees. I never would have thought I would lose consciousness inside the fight. My feet weren't working, and my arms weren't working, so I couldn't lift my hands up to protect myself for that 5th round. But at that point, you're a possum backed up into a corner, and no matter what, you just got to fight.
And here, Chandler's digging. Look at Chandler's digging. He's so smart. He's out. Benson Henderson.
He won the bout via split decision. For his second title defense, Chandler faced Brent Primus at Bellator NYC on June 24, 2017. At 2 minutes 20 seconds in the first round, the bout was stopped because of Chandler's visible ankle injury, leading judges to declare a technical TKO in favor of Primus, making him the Bellator lightweight champion. Another setback from Chandler, but another chance to prove that he can come back even stronger.
What happened in the fight where you lost the title, where your leg gave out?
I stepped back, rolled the ankle, pinched that nerve, and then my foot just went straight.
So from rolling the ankle, that's what did it?
Looked bad, but
you're still up and you're conscious.
I was still up and conscious, and I wasn't taking damage. I was still on my feet. I was still fighting. Did it look really bad? Did it look like a wounded deer out in the middle of a field? You know, like, of course. But I always say, like, if this was back in the Viking days, you chop one of my legs off, and it's me versus him to the battle of the death, I'm still winning that fight 10 times out of 10.
When that happened, how long did it take before your legs started working again?
Oh, man, it was scary, man. For about 3 days, I looked down at my foot, and my brain was telling me to lift my foot, and nothing was happening, man. I thought it was a scary time. 7 days later, I ran 5 miles.
Chandler made his return at Bellator 192 on January 20th, 2018, against Goichi Yamauchi.
Yamauchi trying to control posture, but so much damage has been done. Those are big shots. The positioning of Michael Chandler right now is...
He won the fight by unanimous decision.
Spectacular performance by Chandler.
He was to face Brent Primus for the Bellator Lightweight Championship at Bellator 197 on April 13, 2018. But Primus pulled out of the fight due to a knee injury. Chandler faced Brandon Gertz instead and won the fight via a first-round submission.
He's either going to tap out or go out. He's out. Michael Chandler.
Chandler's rematch with Brent Primus finally took place on December 14, 2018 at Bellator 212.
Of a potential 5.
Chandler dominated the fight, showcasing his superior wrestling skills.
Big, heavy, and they go the distance.
He ultimately defeated him by unanimous decision and regained the Bellator lightweight world title.
16th career win
He lost his new title to Patricio Pitbull Freire in the main event at Bellator 221 on May 11, 2019 via TKO in the first round. But he followed that loss with a couple of decisive victories against Sidney Outlaw and in the rematch against Benson Henderson, both KOs. The second fight against Henderson would be the last one in the Bellator promotion.
What do you want to do with the rest of your career right now?
God has always opened up doors at the right time. He's closed doors at the right time.
It was time to step on the biggest stage of them all.
I'm a fan of the best fighters in the world getting together. And whatever we have to do to facilitate that, that's what I want to see happen.
What are you talking about here?
You! You motherfucker.
Hey, man, I mean, I'm going day by day. We're in talks right now.
But you want to fight the best guys in the world. I know you do.
Years of discipline, relentless work ethic, and success, both on the mats and in the cage, has led Michael Chandler to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He was loyal to Bellator for over a decade and was ready to make his next move. Chandler always sought the biggest challenges of them all. How could he pass up on the biggest test? The biggest challenge of his career, of his life even. We could see the eagerness in Chandler's eyes during his stint as a backup fighter in the Khabib Gaethje bout at UFC 254. Many fans around the world were wondering who's this man who looks like a Navy SEAL, eyeing the cage like it's his birthright to step inside of it. Of course, lots of fans also knew the familiar face. Chandler wasn't given the chance to prove himself that night, but soon he would have that opportunity. At UFC 257 in Abu Dhabi, Chandler was set to face the tough-as-nails Dan Hooker in a lightweight bout. The main card was stacked, topped by none other than the notorious Conor McGregor, who was about to face Dustin Poirier in another lightweight showdown. Understandably so, all eyes were on that card. And Chandler had the perfect opportunity to seize the moment he waited for his entire life. In the build-up to the fight, you could see how excited he was. Fighting was everything to him. Competing made him the man he is today. He was shaped on the mats, in the gym, and in the ring. The moment finally came. Debut against a man who never gives up. A man who gives Israel Adesanya headaches when they spar together over at City Kickboxing in New Zealand. A man whom you need to put to sleep for him to give up. Many were wondering if Chandler would be able to hang with the Hangman inside the Octagon.
But if I was to ask you a simple question, well, how's Chandler going to beat him? You would be stuck.
This was how Michael Chandler answered that question.
Taking on Dan Hooker.
Star power. A debut from his dreams. Michael started off the fight against Dan Hooker as he approaches everything in life, never losing his eyes off the target. From the very first second of the fight, Chandler was on Hooker, non-stop backing him to the cage, waiting for his moment. He was like a lion circling his prey. Hooker tried to land some punches, but with no success. Chandler defended well, and then again took the initiative. After some back and forth, he landed a punch so ferocious that it knocked Hooker right to the ground. It was the cleanest of shots. Straight to the chin. Hooker had no chance. A fury of punches were needed from Chandler to finish the job, and he did.
It's over! Michael Chandler maximizing the debut!
Only 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the first round.
Punches following Dan around, but being patient.
I will look back at the great debuts I have ever seen in the UFC. Coming into tonight, it was Justin Gaethje. It might be Michael Chandler. I mean, this was something special. Particularly when you factor in, historically speaking, guys don't debut very well. But after what we saw tonight, we do need to make Michael Chandler a #1 contender. I think he made himself the #1 contender.
His post-fight interview was equally electric.
Surprise, surprise! Conor McGregor, your time is coming. God bless. See you at the top.
Ladies and gentlemen, Iron Michael Chandler.
He didn't get his shot at McGregor, but he would get an ever sweeter deal. A chance to fight for the belt against Charles Oliveira. In only his second bout in the UFC, Chandler has managed to become one of the top title contenders in the lightweight division. Rarely have we ever witnessed such a quick rise to stardom. His previous resume, of course, played a role.
One of these two is going to kick the other two's ass. If Chandler comes out and he takes charge, it's going to be very hard to stop him, and that's what I'm banking on.
31, he's in his prime right now. I think something's clicked with Charles Oliveira, do you know what I mean? And I believe that Charles Oliveira is going to give Michael Chandler a hell of a fucking fight.
We've never seen a title fight like this in history.
Hard to properly describe the atmosphere in this sold-out Toyota Center right now. Thankful to be here.
The fight against Oliveira started off with a crazy back and forth.
The official sports drink of UFC. Early leg kick for Oliveira. He's again.
And full of dramatic comebacks.
He does a lot of things to discourage you from coming forward into him. And that's one of the reasons why he's different.
Oh!
He clipped.
Couple of left hands from Chandler.
Chandler's got a guillotine.
Michael Chandler was a hair away from winning the title after first overcoming adversity after he gave his back against Oliveira in the first round. It's never a good idea to do that against Oliveira. However, Chandler managed to get away. And even knocked down and almost finished Oliveira with ground and pound. But he didn't. He could have easily let Oliveira stand up and finished him on his feet, instead of attacking him where he shines the most, on the ground. The second round started off with a few exchanges. But in one moment, Oliveira caught Chandler flush with a strike. Chandler went down. He tried to recover, but Oliveira furiously attacked him with a barrage of punches that ultimately finished the job.
He came that close to being the champion of the world. That close.
How devastating would that be?
He had Oliveira in deep shit in that first round.
So close.
Still, Chandler didn't lose his will to compete. He brushed that loss off and gracefully accepted it.
Hats off to Charles for surviving that first round, surviving the barrage. If we fight again, we'll see what happens. But all I know is I'm coming for the belt eventually.
Watching that press conference in Houston, man, I think it was hard for me to watch because you handled it very, very professionally, but you were also, you could tell, it felt like you were holding back tears during that whole thing.
Part of the pain of all of this is how close I was to finishing Charles Oliveira in round 1. I was that close to tasting the ultimate accomplishment, which is the UFC title, which is becoming the #1 guy in the world. And, you know, the loss happened, and I still feel like the same man I was walking into the Octagon against Charles Oliveira. And we're going to move forward, and we're going to rip off the Band-Aid, so to speak, and I'm going to talk about it. We get it out there and we move on.
Life has taught him to learn from his failures and dust himself off only to get back on the horse. If we learned one thing from his first 2 fights in the Octagon, it's always fun to watch Chandler fight. He always puts on a show, and his fights are never boring.
There's a new king in the lightweight division!
That was also the case in his next fight. It was a fight that would surely be a Hall of Fame bout. We all vividly remember being nerve-wracked watching it, clenching our fists, almost pulling out our fingernails from anxiousness. It was a fight between 2 sluggers. Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler met at UFC 268 in a barn-burner contest. Both Chandler and Gaethje are known for putting their foot on the gas pedal and never slowing down. It's exactly what happened during their fight. Chandler came out charging, and Gaethje met him in the middle. Both men exchanged bombs every chance they had. Chandler wobbled Gaethje with a solid right, but Gaethje also stumbled Chandler on the counter in the opening round. A ferocious pace.
Action, an insane first round. Look at that beautiful jab up. Nice uppercut.
I think Justin Gaethje doesn't get the credit for being as technical as he is. Mixed martial arts. Tonight's corner camp.
Both men slowed down in round 2, but were still exchanging heavy hits. Gaethje's well-known leg kicks were doing serious damage on Chandler's left leg. And he even dropped Chandler with a thunderous uppercut. Chandler endured.
Desperation. Takedown here from Chandler.
He's moving to the back, though. He lets him up.
In the third round, Gaethje continued to attack Chandler's legs. But Chandler never stopped going forward. Despite eating heavy shots, Chandler continued to taunt him and press forward. And both fighters exchanged strikes up until the bell rang.
He hurt and chopped that leg.
These two took hits unlike any other fight that year. The pair put on a show.
Final decision. Wow,
what a fight. And you knew they'd bury the hatchet. A lot of mutual respect.
Gaethje got the win after 15 minutes of carnage. Still, Chandler's motivation didn't waver.
What does it feel like to, even in a defeat, your stock seemed to have risen after this Justin Gaethje fight?
I think I was caught up in the moment. It's definitely the first time in my career that I didn't care whether I won or lost for some reason.
He was in a similar position during his stint in Bellator, where he didn't win a fight for a long time. He didn't stop working then, he wouldn't stop now. How could he disappoint his father, mother, brothers, and coach who had the confidence in him throughout his entire life? So, he went back to the drawing board. At UFC 274, Michael Chandler faced Tony El Kagui Ferguson, one of the legends of the sport. Tony was on a losing streak himself and wanted to return to his winning ways against Chandler. But Chandler had other plans.
Right now, Tony has fallen on hard times. He's currently on a 3-fight losing streak. But he's so goddamn tough.
Both fighters are known for their never-say-die attitude, but one had to lose in their bout. The first round was wild, but it only set the tone for what was to come 17 seconds into the second round. Ferguson hit Chandler with a right hand in the first round and followed it with a left that put Chandler down. They went at each other hard, as fans expected, and Chandler had a great finish to the first round, taking Ferguson down and landing some big shots from the top. Little did the fans know what was about to come. Chandler landed perhaps the greatest knockout kick in UFC history. That nearly blew the roof off the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
Kick to the face! Kick to the face!
The kick hit Ferguson on the chin, and he was out before he even hit the mat. It was one of the scariest knockouts in UFC history.
Oh my goodness!
Holy shit. Chandler caught Ferguson in fucking incredible.
The kick is one of the greatest knockouts we've ever seen. Anything you drilled, anything you thought might be there, or just something you saw in the moment? What happened?
I don't even know if I saw it in the moment. I think my body just moved and foot to face, and it's not something that we train. Sometimes you throw something that you never ever thought you would ever land.
Was honestly
People wondered if Tony was actually okay after he stepped off the octagon. In an interview days after the fight, he said that he only regained awareness of where he was minutes after walking off the octagon. Chandler's post-fight interview was legendary.
The most entertaining lightweight on the planet. I got one dude on my mind. Conor McGregor, you gotta come back and fight somebody. You and me at 170. God bless. I'll see you on the top. Michael Chandler, ladies and gentlemen.
After he landed the vicious kick, Michael searched for his son, brought to tears.
Chandler just came over to the broadcast booth again, trying to find his son. Pain reliever of UFC.
Yeah, give him his son! Give him his son! Yes!
That little guy was Hap Whitaker, whom Chandler and his wife adopted after a long process to enter the adoption pool.
Plane's upside down.
So we decided to adopt because my wife, Bree, always wanted to. Prize for you. Oh, parents of two. Parents of two. Ever since she was a teenager, she used to volunteer at a mission inside of Columbia, Missouri, where she's from. She always said is, whenever I marry a man, if he's a really great man, obviously I want to adopt some baby boys.
It took only 6 minutes for them to get the call about Hap after they became eligible to adopt.
That's crazy.
It also took only 6 minutes for Chandler to produce one of the most devastating and spectacular knockouts in the history of the MMA sport. But in both cases, those 6 minutes required a lifelong journey of dedication and excellence, of will to endure the toughest challenges, to lose only to get back and win again, and rinse and repeat. 3 title reigns in Bellator have taught Chandler to never lose faith in what the universe has in store for him. He now gets to enjoy the fruits of his labor, accompanied by a loving family who supports him no matter what. Michael Chandler has proved that he's not bulletproof in the octagon, but his spirit and his determination are simply unbeatable. Regardless of who he faces next, whether it'll be a rematch against Oliveira or a super fight against Conor McGregor, we can expect a spectacle, and we can expect Chandler to leave everything in the octagon, as he does in every aspect of his life.